Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dream Show. I'm your host Manoj Agarwal, and today we'll be talking with Elizabeth Ngonzi. So, Elizabeth, or Liz as her friends call her, is a transformative speaker, educator, consultant with over 20 years of experience empowering purpose driven individuals and organizations to amplify their impact through AI powered storytelling, stakeholder engagement, and strategic partnerships. As the founder of the International Social Impact Institute, Liz has built an award winning social enterprise that enables clients worldwide to maximize their reach and accelerate their missions. The ISII offers customized training, consulting, coaching focused on AI driven social impact storytelling and partnership development. Her specialized speaking engagements and communication coaching uh, transforms, inspire, and activate global impact, while her youth giving initiative provides resources and events to empower young change makers. Since 2020, the ISII has taught and coached over 600 individuals, held more than 110 events reaching over 34,000 people, and facilitated over 100 partnerships. Remarkably, since June 2023, the ISII has already empowered over 1,900 minds with AI knowledge. An award winning adjunct assistant professor at the New York University Center of Global Affairs, Liz enriches professional students with her knowledge of digital storytelling, emerging technologies, and generative AI. Her passion for education extends to her role as a founding member of Imagine AI Live, where she spearheads initiatives that revolutionize the application of AI in business, technology, and social impact. Liz is also the host of Impact NYC, a groundbreaking one day event under Imagine AI Live designed to empower entrepreneurs, leaders, and innovators. Wow, welcome, Liz.
Thank you. I'm also a yogi.
Oh wow, we didn't find that on your bio, but there you
Well,
go.
I'll tell you this because of the conversation I had with you, I literally just updated my LinkedIn profile to include that bit of information.
That's awesome. Yeah, we should always put our hidden talents out there so that people can know about us for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
so now let me dive into your journey. You know, you have accomplished a lot. You have made a big impact, but I think you have a very interesting story. So why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about your background. How did it all start? Walk us down the memory lane.
Wow. Okay, that's a long lane, but thank. First of all, thank you so much for having me, and hello everybody, wherever you may be in the world. I'm really psyched to be here with you. So I was born in Uganda a very long time ago, and we moved to the United States when I was 4 years old. My mother was a diplomat at the time, so she was posted to the Uganda mission to the United Nations. And so I spent 13 years attending the United Nations International School. So I'm from a UN family diplomatic corps kind of thing. So that really informed who I am as a person who's very aware of the world, as someone who's very world about social causes, and empathetic to the plight of just people all over. So I kind of started there, and then I then went to undergrad. I studied information systems. Originally, I was an art student, so I'm a very big art person. But as you can appreciate, with being an immigrant, my parents were like, "You got to get a real major."
Yeah.
So I switched to information systems. Worked in the technology industry for a couple of companies. Then I went back to Cornell for my master in management hospitality. And I went and worked as a management consultant. But so those were my corporate lives, right? So the funny thing is that here I am with this sort of UN education, UN worldview, and I go into
Hmm.
work in corporate America, which kind of didn't make sense to anybody, but it was very important grounding because it helped me to understand a lot of different business environments. It helped me to develop a very strong network, and to also gain very strong skills. And so um, when I left Arthur Anderson after it went through everything it went through with the whole Enron scandal, I decided that I wanted to set up shop on my own and take everything I had learned in the private sector and apply it to helping nonprofit organizations, essentially. And so what I learned in marketing and sales and consulting, I then translated into fundraising, of course, marketing and all that, and just started working with lots of different kinds of organizations, everywhere from youth development organizations to women's health organizations, educational institutions, and really looked at how I could help them enhance their ability to tell their stories, as well as to be able to raise funds. So back, if you may not be old enough to remember this, but back in 2006, people didn't have websites to promote events, and in fact, we did. I had a company that I was working with in Uganda, and they used to create little event websites for our clients, including the first Diwali at the United Nations that we organized, and so that was kind of it. Then in 2007, we organized an online auction for a cancer organization. And so that was always sort of baked into what we're doing, but it never dawned on me that that was a really important part of what we brought to the table. Alongside of this, I was teaching. So I taught courses at local community colleges, and then I had an opportunity in 2009 to attend a course with one of my clients at New York University. At the time, it was the Center for Fundraising and Philanthropy. And I met the director and I said, I love your program, but you have a hole in your program. You have nothing around online and mobile fundraising. And that's very, very important, because at that time, it was when we were going through the economic downturn, and a lot of organizations that had the big budgets for the big fundraisers and all that had them all cut, particularly in the New York area. And so with a lot of them are tied to Madoff, the whole Madoff crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I recognized that really these organizations needed to start looking at smaller donations from more individuals and creating a presence outside of their local entities, and so local areas. And so in 2009, June, this is literally my anniversary month, 15th anniversary, I created the first course in the program called Online and Mobile Fundraising. I had Always On, Always There. So a bunch of different courses I developed over time. So when people say to me, how did you end up in this whole AI space? I'm like, I was teaching organizations and I was using technology for a very long time to help organizations to tell their stories, to raise the money that they needed to, and even eventually to figure out how they could deliver their services more effectively that way. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in between, but I think what's important is fast forwarding to January of last year, where I had COVID. I was sick at home, and one of my interns told me to check out ChatGPT because she'd been using it for her homework at school. And I said, okay. So I tried it out, and I was like, Manoj, first I was like, okay, what is this? And I played with it, and I couldn't sleep. Like, I was up all night playing with it, because I had a ha-ha moment in terms of how it could really create efficiencies in my own institute, in terms of, one of the challenges I always had, it was like, to get content out. I had someone I paid who could edit and write some content, but I always was sort of behind because of her availability and the way it all worked. I'm like, all of a sudden I can get what I need out right away, because I can get an AI assistant to go ahead and refine and edit all of this content. So that was a really big moment for me. And then as I played it around with more, so we used it for our web content. We then tried it out with a client who we were developing a webinar for, and she was trying to figure out, she didn't like the title that I gave her for the series. I said, listen, let me put it in ChatGPT. Let's see what come up with. And I gave her 3 versions. She's like, I love them. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I said, okay, now let's see how we can integrate it into even developing some of this content related to these events we were producing, like runs of show and the like. And it just kind of built from there to a point when I was like, well, if we're doing it for ourselves, if we're integrating it into some of the work product, why can't we teach people how to use this? Let's just integrate into what we're already doing. We're already teaching digital storytelling. We're already kind of helping folks enhance their presence online. This is just the next level of that, right? And so then in June of last year, I was invited to speak at a philanthropy conference in Zanzibar, in East Africa. And so I presented my first talk at that. It was a short talk, but basically I wanted people just to try AI. I was like, you know what, if you can just try ChatGPT just like to see it, you don't have to be afraid of it. Then I can open the door for you and to start thinking about how to integrate into your organization, how to use it for your own career and the like. And it's kind of just taken off from there. And one of the things that you may not have seen is that at this point we've trained since June of last year 2,000 people in AI.
That's impressive. No, yeah.
For 2,000 people worldwide on how to use it. And my whole thing is about demystifying it, right? Like, I'm not trying to do it at PhD level. I want to talk to those people who are afraid of it and have been, who really desperately need it, because I really believe that it's quite, it can level the playing field for smaller organizations, for entrepreneurs, for solopreneurs, for people who typically are under-resourced and need these kinds of, can really benefit from having this additional assistant to kind of help them scale.
No, excellent. So it has been quite an impressive journey. But let me zero in on a few things that I picked up.
Sure.
One is you're helping organization raise money, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, and I think that is one of the most frequently asked questions. Okay, how do you raise money? So it sounds like your strategy is to organize events and tell the story of people, build a community around the cause or the mission that you're on. So can we dive a little bit deeper into your strategy? Like, how do you coach organizations in terms of how to raise money?
The very first thing starts with the leader, right? It starts with that. And I know you and I have talked about this. Like, why did you start this organization? Why are you in this, right? And even looking at the board and the people who are sort of in the senior leadership, like, what is that? How does this align with who you are? And what is it you're trying to ultimately do so that the mission reflects that, right? Because we need to be able to walk the talk when we're talking about when we're doing this, right? So it's the story starts there. And then understanding how it is that you as an organization uniquely solve the problem you've chosen to solve. So let's say if it's, cancer care, right? If you're providing services to people who are cancer patients, then what is it about the way that you deliver that service that's uniquely about you? Is it because of the team you've assembled? Is it that you have a unique technology? Is it that you have the ability to scale? Like, what is it about your unique value proposition? Because that's got to be conveyed in how you tell the story. And then ultimately, then it helps you to understand who is going to most resonate with that, right? So unfortunately, what happens is a lot of organizations, or even frankly, entrepreneurs, they have an idea of what they're trying to create, and it's probably a great idea. And then they say, okay, such and such has money. I've heard about this funder. I've heard about this foundation. Yeah, they should fund me. And it's like, no, you need to understand what your unique value proposition is, and then look at it relative to what their funding strategy and their priorities are. So, like, just because you've heard of Gates Foundation doesn't mean Gates Foundation funds what you do, right? So it's really creating that mutual alignment, which requires research. But the good news is with ChatGPT, with all these different platforms, that can shortcut a lot of it for you so that you don't have to pour through a ton of content to be able to find that. Because unfortunately, for nonprofit organizations, only 10% of foundations in the US actually have websites. So it's very hard to find that information out, right? But by doing research to understand what their funding priorities are, whether it's on the nonprofit side or even we're talking about VCs or other types of for-profit funders, you need to understand what they're trying to do, because ultimately the reason why someone's going to invest in you or invest in your organization or company is because you're solving a problem that they're trying to address. Right? If you don't get that, if you don't get that it's about them, then you're never going to win the bid. You're never going to receive that funding. And so I really try to help folks understand their unique value proposition, help them to understand what the priorities are of those they're approaching, and then crafting their story in a way that demonstrates how, by partnering with them, can help that particular funder realize whatever their vision is. Because the Gates Foundation has priorities. They have people they're answerable to as well. And so if they're going to make investment decisions, then those investment decisions need to be able to move whatever their thesis is forward, whatever their priorities are forward.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah. So,
Ex-
and it goes both ways, whether it's
yeah.
for profit or nonprofit. Like if you're talking about, over the full funding spectrum, everyone has a priority, and you got to be able to make sure that you're helping them to achieve that priority.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great point. And then I also want to touch upon the events strategy.
Yeah.
So, it seems like you are very active in organizing events.
Sure.
You are organizing this event at NYC.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how does that fit into the overall
So,
strategy?
so a story. Everyone thinks of story as maybe like content on a website. They think of story as like an ad or something like that. But an event is a story, right?
Mm-hmm,
It's a
mm-hmm.
story comes life. So in an event, or an event can take form in lots of forms. So it can be a conference, it can be a meeting, it can be even this. This is an event that we're having, right? It's an opportunity for you to be able to convey what your organization is all about and make a connection with whoever it is that you're trying to connect with, right? Why events are very powerful is that they're emotive, right? And so you have an opportunity built in events to be able to cultivate a relationship, to be able to really cultivate, engage, and get someone to learn more about the organization, and then ultimately to hopefully support that organization. And it's a unique setting to do so. And depending on the context of the event. So let's put it in the context of like a fundraising event. When you have a fundraising event, you have your board members there, you have maybe some of your beneficiaries there. You might have a food, beverage, never skimp on that. Make sure that you're, entering, because you're taking care of people. So you have to take care of these people who are coming to your event, help them to understand what's unique about what you're doing, how it furthers what they're trying to accomplish. And then you use that as a vehicle to have your board members, have all the people in your ecosystem really make them feel like they want to be part of that story, so that they can move forward with you, supporting you in a way that again furthers what they want, right? And so that's why events are powerful, because you get to bring out, like, it's kind of like a wedding. You get to bring everyone shining on the event day.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like events. I think that, obviously if someone can come visit your facility, right, or they can come and see what you're doing, that's even more powerful because they get to experience it that way. But this is sort of that next level of it. And it's also where you can dazzle, right? Because if you're talking about, like, let's say a corporate funder, if you're talking about even institutional funder, they need to know who else is in your camp. They need to know who else is supporting you, so that they can say, well, oh, they're there, we're in it too, right? Because everyone thinks about, they want to be with the cool kids, right? And that translates into an organization. It translates into a company, like the same way it translates on the playground, right? Is that we always want to be with those who we feel are our peers, or those people we feel that we want it, or those organizations that we want to be sort of affiliated with. And so it's when you are able to assemble a bunch of folks and a bunch of organizations and companies in that environment, it helps to create that sort of opportunity for prospective supporters to be connected. So there's a whole formula to it. In fact, that one of the very first classes I taught was around that years ago. And I think, and again, it's just another version of your story. So you have to be very consistent about that. So that means that the choice of event like, or the type of event you choose to throw, who you choose to involve, how you choose to execute it, and who you choose to invite, it's all a formula that's moving you towards a specific objective that ultimately should further your story.
That's amazing.
Mission.
That's a great sort of insight for people to understand. There are multiple ways to raise money, and most people just only focus on a few ways to do it. Now, just getting down into the tactics. Okay, so let's say you organize this event. One of the major things that I heard from people is, like, how do you fill the seats in that event? How do you get the right people to attend? How do you make sure that whoever is attending is actually, passionate about the same cause? They have the authority and the means to, like, contribute to your cause. How do you do that?
Right. So first and foremost, it starts with, just like with any project, right? You have to have an objective, right? So there's a financial objective, let's say, like, $1 million we need to. So I'm going to actually give you a real case study. How's that? That'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be awesome.
Years ago, this is going back to like 2008, an organization that does really amazing work with after school programs in Newark, New Jersey, reached out to me, and they were like, we need to do a fundraiser for our organization, and it was a significant year. It was a milestone year for them, but like, they had never done a fundraiser before. And I said, okay. And they were like, well, we have 9 weeks. I'm like, 9 weeks is like, you have no chance. But I said, you know what, let's have a meeting. So we had a meeting. And when we met up, I met with the board members, and it turned out they had one very important person. I mean, everyone was important. They had a university president and all that. But one particular person who was important was the head of community relations for the New York Giants.
Okay.
Now, why that's important is because that actually I could create something around that, right? Because with the New York Giants have to be able to do community work. They need to be engaged with the community. And it so happens that this guy was head of community relations. And then one of their players, one of the Giants, was kind of like I don't know how to say, he used to be champion of their after school program. So there was already a relationship there, right? And so I said, okay, if the New York Giants is willing to be the underwriter of this event, I can build something around it. And they said, yes, we'll do it. So we actually had them hosted at the Stadium Club in what was then Giant Stadium. And what we did was we realized this organization when they said we have a database, they literally gave me pieces of paper. They didn't have a database. So we had to rely on just getting some of the folks that were connected to the board. And then we pulled from our own list. But then I spoke to the people who were the ones who dealt with the fans. And we said, okay, can you get some fans here? So what happened was they said, okay, we can do that. We placed a player at every table because what was drawing the people in, because I needed to raise money, right? That was my primary goal, was to raise money. Now the fans were going to come primarily because they wanted to sit with the player. And all the experiences we had. And ultimately, I got the client to the objective. The objective was to raise that money. That's what we needed, right? And then it was up to the client to get these people to be excited about the organization. So we were able to bring people to this event. We had one giant at every table. We had a basic dinner, and the whole event was sports themed, right? So we had like an auctioneer who was a former Giant who people know very, very well. We had a very well-known sportscaster who was the MC, and then we gave away sports memorabilia and sports-related kind of items. Again, connecting to the people who were at that event. Ultimately, we then also did a tour of the locker room, and then we got everybody on the field and we let them throw footballs and take photos with this trophy. So what we did was create the ultimate fan experience, right? And again, never losing sight of the fact that this was about a fundraiser for this organization that was doing after school programs, but the objective was to get people there. So that's what I'm trying to say to you is that it's a formula, right? So the formula was we had to have the right underwriting partner, which was the Giants. So they had the venue, they had the players, they had the experience, and then they helped us to attract the sports person, the former Giants, and then their fans who came, and because otherwise, with 9 weeks, we never would have gotten it done. And with that, we were able to raise $100,000, which for such a small organization was pretty good.
Nice. That's amazing. That's a great case study. And I think it speaks to the power of just sort of understanding who you're talking to, what your objectives are, and again, telling a story. I mean, this whole experience was like a experiential story that you told for the fans, right?
Right.
So that's amazing. Now I do see a couple of questions from the audience, so I'm gonna summarize it. How do you use AI to create value with consistent output with your with what you do with AI, and how do you make sure you focus on ethics of using AI? So can you speak to that?
Yeah. So let me start with ethics first. So to me, because I work in the social impact space, the threshold for trust is really the threshold. Like companies are held to lower standards than nonprofits are, and so when we're talking about working with our nonprofit clients or any of the social impact folks, we have to be even more careful than, let's say, if we were dealing on the private sector. And so what that means is that when we talk about people's information, personally identifiable information, we're very careful about either removing it or anonymizing whatever we need to, if we need to use it, say, for survey analysis and that kind of thing. So that's important. We also make sure that like we get consent to be able to use information and stuff like that. So that's a very important thing to me and to my team, that we don't have a problem with that. And then it also determines the choice of platform, right? So there were some popular platforms that early on, we were very careful about what kind of information we put in them, because they weren't really clear about where they stood with privacy. And so we've since been able to kind of deal with that, and they've all had to kind of step up. So that's the first part of the answer. With respect to consistency, let me start with this. So we use AI to enhance what we do. So we're not starting straight from it. So like we already had work product. So what we're doing is using it to maybe tailor it for a specific purpose, or we're using it to refine, right, and the like. And we have prompts that we've created to be able to do that, right? So it's all about helping us to enhance the quality of our output, and to be able to help us sort of be more efficient in what we're doing. And then thanks to you, Manoj, now I have my own Liz GPT, so we're going to be able to do that as well. So we're taking all of what I've created on my own to be able to work even more smartly, right? So that we're training on our own data, which is good.
That's awesome.
Does that help?
And yeah, absolutely. And now just shifting gears now. So you have created this amazing impact, and now you are getting into AI, and now you are also organizing events and around AI. So how does that fit into your overall vision of making this global impact? Why do you think AI is such an important thing that you are now entirely focusing on creating events around AI and educating people around AI?
I'm primarily, the big like aha moment I mentioned to you is that I recognize how it really leveled the playing field, right? Like that's, for me, ultimately, like even going back to 2012, I think it was, I was speaking on a panel at the World Bank, the Connect for Climate event that they had, initiative that they had. And I talked about how I love social media because it leveled the playing field in terms of the voices that could be finally heard. Because in the past, the only voices you could hear were the big media companies, right? So the media companies dictated what we learned about developing countries. We learned about ourselves and the like. But now all of a sudden you had all of these young people, these new voices who could come to the table. So I already was thinking about that. So I always look at technology in terms of its ability to give voice to those who are typically not heard, to be able to bring in new innovation. So that's where I'm starting from. With respect to AI, I saw it as, again, creating sort of opportunities for those who typically don't have the resources. They're not going to get the funding. They're not going to be seen. And so therefore, they're never going to be able to scale their impact, but are probably doing the most incredible work out there. And so I felt like if I could first do the training, that would be great, right? But then I thought, connecting with these folks at Imagine AI Live, I said, well, an event makes sense. We already do events, but I hadn't thought of it as, it was like an event. It would be like, in the past, it was like we're offering AI as an adjunct to like a social impact conference. But that was like, well, why not an AI conference? But an AI conference that's geared towards people who are trying to figure this out, right? So this is not PhD level AI. This is not how do you train that. It's not about, how do you develop this? That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to say is, if you're an organization leader, if you're a CEO of a company, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an individual, if you're a student, and you're just trying to figure out how to integrate this into your workflows, if you're trying to figure out how to integrate this so that you can make yourself much more attractive as a professional, as a leader, this is where you need to come. And so that's how I see it, as, again, still leveling the playing field and looking at the broadest audience possible that can have access to this. That's really what I'm looking at.
That's awesome. And I feel like we should also highlight that you're doing this work globally, right? Not just in North America. So can you speak to that? Like, you have some initiatives in Africa, or so?
Yes.
So can you share a little bit about that?
So I'm actually going right after Imagine AI Live Impact NYC that you're coming. We're so grateful that you're coming to join us, and you're going to be speaking in on July 12th. I fly July 14th to Rwanda, and I'm going to be speaking at the African Leadership University. So they're having an AI symposium 1 week long. So I'll be in residence for that. And that will be geared towards students at 3 different universities. So they're bringing in the students. And again, making AI accessible. It's not so much about, there are going to be some elements that are going to be geared towards more of the computer science, software engineering students. But for the broader students, we have programming that will help them figure out how to integrate it into their career search, how to even integrate it into their skill set, right? So they can have a stronger skill set, because everyone needs to learn how to do this. And the like. And so that's one way we're going to be doing it. That's one aspect of what we're doing. And then we've worked with other organizations, sort of globally, who had us train either their fellows or their beneficiaries on how to use this technology. And in fact, just 2 Mondays ago, we delivered a training via Zoom to an organization it's a global organization focused on women's reproductive rights. And they brought together 18 country heads in London. Unfortunately, I couldn't travel to London because it was after our ASFAI event, remotely. And it was to help them understand how they could become better brand ambassadors digitally for this organization, and then showing them how they could, repurpose the content developed by this organization to be able to localize it for their context, and then also creating their own content to be able to tell the message, to give the message out there, ultimately to deliver more services to more people, but also to raise more money.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being here, sharing your story and what you're doing in the world. Before I let you go, can you tell us, if people want to reach out, what is the best way to contact you?
I would love for them to reach out to me. I'm on every platform as at Liz Ngonzi. They can also go to lizngonzi.com or socialimpactinst.com. If they're interested in learning more about Imagine AI Live, Impact NYC, they can go to imagineai.live. But connect with me on LinkedIn or X, and just let me know what you're trying to do, what you're excited about, what tools are you doing, what are you working on, and what are you scared of? Because I think we're all in this together. I was thinking about a proverb this morning, one of my favorite proverbs from Africa. It's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And then I thought to myself, but with AI, you can go far and fast, right? And in unimaginable places, right? So I feel like that human AI interaction is helping us to really go to places we never really thought about before, a lot more effectively, more efficiently. But it also gives us an opportunity to collaborate in new ways. I really do believe in that. And so I want people to think about the importance of that and not be afraid of AI, because it's not going anywhere. And this, at least at this time, a lot of these platforms are free or at least low cost. And so this is a great time to experiment. And with everything online, it's iterative. So I hear a lot of people say, well, I tried ChatGPT one time and it gave me a horrible response. I'm like, well, yeah, but you have to massage it. It's not, it's not. It doesn't, it's like a baby, when you first start working with it, and it learns very fast. And so I just want to see more people try using this, and more people all over the world, because we just can't afford to create an even bigger digital divide than we are.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm really concerned about. So that's what I've got. But I'm so grateful that you invited me today, Manoj. I love what you're doing. I think that you're phenomenal, and I love that you really are plugged in with this whole sense of Ubuntu, and we have to work together, right? It's not about being transactional, but about understanding how important it is to create community and how we can move forward together, because that's the only way you make these ripples, right? The ripple
Yeah,
effect
exactly.
when you're working together and to affect change. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, all the positive energy right back at you with what you are doing, and I'm really happy to collaborate and participate in this collective effort. So thank you so much, and we'll put those links in the show notes so that people can reach out easily. So once again, thank you so much for your time and being with here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.